The room buzzed with chatter and laughter, but all I could hear was the deafening silence of my husband's absence. I plastered on a smile as another colleague approached, champagne flute in hand. "Linda, congratulations on your retirement. 35 years of public service. That's quite an achievement." "Thank you, Tom. It's been a wonderful journey," I replied, my eyes darting to the entrance. Where was Ethan? My daughter Emma appeared at my side, squeezing my arm. "Mom, stop worrying. I'm sure Dad's just stuck in traffic." I nodded, unconvinced. Ethan had been distant lately, working late hours and barely speaking to me when he was home. This party was supposed to be our fresh start, a chance to reconnect now that I'd have more time. My sister Samantha approached, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Linda, you look beautiful. I'm so proud of you." "Thanks, Sam. I'm glad you could make it." As we chatted, my phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "We need to talk. Important. See you at home." My stomach dropped. Emma noticed my expression change. "Mom, what's wrong?" I shook my head, forcing a smile. "Nothing, sweetie. Your father's just running late." The party continued around me, but I felt like I was underwater. Sounds muffled and movements slow. Something was terribly wrong, and I couldn't shake the feeling that my carefully planned retirement was about to implode. As the last guests trickled out, Emma helped me gather my gifts. "Mom, are you sure you're okay? You seem distracted." I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "I'm fine, Emma. Just tired. It's been a long day." But as we walked to the car, Ethan's cryptic message weighed heavily on my mind. Whatever conversation awaited me at home, I had a sinking feeling it would change everything. I walked into our house, my heart pounding. Ethan sat in his armchair, his face a mask of stone. The air felt thick with unspoken words. "Linda," he said, his voice flat, "we need to talk." I set down my purse, steeling myself. "About what, Ethan? Why weren't you at the party?" He stood up, pacing. "I can't do this anymore. I want a divorce." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What? Why? After 35 years? You've been so focused on your career, Linda. I've felt neglected for years. We've grown apart." I stared at him, disbelief turning to anger. "Neglected? I've supported you through everything. What's really going on, Ethan?" He wouldn't meet my eyes. "I just think we'd both be happier apart. I want a clean break. 50-50 split of assets, no support payments." My mind raced. This wasn't just about feeling neglected. There was something he wasn't telling me. "Who is she, Ethan?" I demanded. He flinched. "There's no one else. I just want out." But I knew him too well. The slight tremor in his voice, the way he couldn't look at me directly. He was lying. "I don't believe you," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "But fine. You want a divorce? You'll get one. But don't think for a second I'm going to make this easy for you." Ethan looked surprised, then relieved. He'd expected me to beg, to cry. But I was done being the accommodating wife. "I'll have my lawyer contact yours," I said, turning to leave. "And Ethan? I hope she's worth it." As I walked out, my phone buzzed. A text from Emma. "Everything okay, Mom? How did it go with Dad?" I took a deep breath, my fingers hovering over the keys. How could I tell my daughter that her father had just shattered our family? But as the shock wore off, determination set in. Ethan was hiding something, and I was going to find out what. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Emma's face was a mix of shock and fury as I told her about Ethan's demand for a divorce. "Mom, this doesn't make sense. Dad's hiding something, and we're going to find out what." I nodded, grateful for her support. "Where do we start?" "His phone records," Emma said, her jaw set. "I have a friend who can help us access them discreetly." Within days, we had a goldmine of information. Ethan had been making frequent calls to an unknown number, always at odd hours. "Look at this address." Emma pointed to a line on the screen. "He's been there almost every day for months." My heart raced as we drove to the location. It was a modest house in a quiet neighborhood. As we watched from across the street, a familiar car pulled up. That's Samantha's car," I whispered, disbelief turning to horror. Emma's grip on the steering wheel tightened. "No way. Aunt Sam wouldn't." But there she was, my sister, walking up to the house. Ethan greeted her at the door with a kiss. I felt like I was going to be sick. "My own sister," I choked out. Emma's voice was steel. "We need to confront her, Mom. Now." We waited until Samantha left, then followed her home. My hands shook as I knocked on her door. "Linda? Emma? What's wrong?" Samantha's face fell as she saw our expressions. "How long?" I demanded, pushing past her into the house. "What are you talking about?" But her eyes darted away, guilt written all over her face. "Don't lie to me, Sam. We saw you with Ethan." Samantha crumpled onto the couch, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry, Linda. It just happened. Just happened." Emma's voice was ice. "For months." Samantha looked up, her eyes pleading. "There's more, Linda. Something you need to know about Ethan." My world tilted on its axis as Samantha revealed the full extent of Ethan's deception. It wasn't just an affair. It was worse, so much worse than I could have imagined. As I listened, shock gave way to a cold, hard resolve. Ethan thought he could discard me like yesterday's trash? He had no idea what was coming. "Emma," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside, "we need to make some calls. It's time to take back control." The game had changed, and I was playing to win. I stood outside our home, my hand trembling as I reached for the doorknob. The weight of the evidence in my purse felt like lead. Emma squeezed my shoulder, her presence giving me strength. "You've got this, Mom," she whispered. I nodded, took a deep breath, and walked in. Ethan was in his usual spot, reading the newspaper as if our world hadn't just imploded. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. He looked up, annoyed. "Linda, I thought we'd settled everything." I tossed the photos on the coffee table. "Settled? Is that what you call this?" Ethan's face drained of color as he saw the images of him and Samantha together. He stammered, I can explain." "Save it," I snapped. "How long has this been going on? And with my sister, of all people." He stood up, hands raised placatingly. "It just happened. We never meant to hurt you." "Hurt me?" I laughed bitterly. "You've destroyed our family, Ethan. And for what? A fling with my sister." "It's not a fling," he said quietly. "We're in love." The words hit me like a physical blow. I staggered back, Emma catching me. "You bastard," Emma hissed. "How dare you?" Ethan's eyes darted between us. "Linda, please. We can work this out. I'll give you anything you want in the divorce. Just don't tell anyone about this. Think of the scandal." I straightened up, a cold fury replacing my shock. "Oh, now you're worried about scandal? You should have thought of that before you started sleeping with my sister." I turned to Emma. "Pack a bag for me, sweetheart. I'm staying with you for a while." As Emma went upstairs, I faced Ethan one last time. "You wanted a divorce? You've got one. But it'll be on my terms now. And trust me, Ethan, you won't like them one bit." I walked out, leaving Ethan stammering behind me. As we drove away, I felt a mix of pain and determination. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Ethan and Samantha had no idea what was coming their way. "What now, Mom?" Emma asked as we pulled into her driveway.
I smiled grimly. "Now? We plan our next move. They think they've won, but they've just started a war they can't possibly win." I sat at Emma's kitchen table, my hands wrapped around a mug of tea that had long since gone cold. The past few days had been a blur of pain and anger, but now a new emotion was taking hold: determination. "We need a plan," I said, looking up at Emma and her boyfriend, Jack. Emma nodded, her face set with the same resolve I felt. "What do you want to do, Mom?" I took a deep breath. "I want to expose them. Not just to us, but to everyone. Ethan's mother, Rebecca, our friends, the whole community. Jack leaned forward, his lawyer instincts kicking in. "We need to be careful, Linda. We don't want this to backfire." "I know," I said, "but I can't let them get away with this. They've been living a lie, and it's time for the truth to come out." We spent the next few hours strategizing. Jack used his connections to gather more evidence of Ethan and Samantha's affair. Emma reached out to family members, subtly gauging their loyalties. As night fell, a plan began to take shape. We would host a family dinner, ostensibly as a farewell before I moved out. But it would be more than that. It would be the stage for our revelation. Just as we were finalizing details, my phone buzzed. It was Rebecca, Ethan's mother. "Linda, dear," her voice crackled through the speaker. "I've heard some disturbing rumors. Is everything all right between you and Ethan?" My heart raced. This was unexpected, but it could work in our favor. "Actually, Rebecca," I said, my voice steady, "I'm glad you called. I'm hosting a family dinner next week. There's something important I need to discuss with everyone." After hanging up, I turned to Emma and Jack. "Change of plans. We're doing this sooner than we thought." Emma squeezed my hand. "Are you sure you're ready, Mom?" I nodded, a mix of fear and anticipation coursing through me. I've never been more ready for anything in my life. As we continued planning late into the night, I felt a strange sense of calm settle over me. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my life, my dignity, and my future. The stage was set. In a week's time, Ethan and Samantha's carefully constructed world would come crashing down, and I would be there to watch it burn. The dining room was thick with tension as I surveyed the faces around the table. Ethan sat stiffly at one end, his eyes darting nervously. Samantha, pale and fidgety, avoided my gaze. Rebecca, Ethan's mother, watched everyone with sharp, suspicious eyes. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "Thank you all for coming," I began, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'm sure you're wondering why I've gathered you here." Ethan cleared his throat. "Linda, perhaps this isn't the best time, Dash." "Oh, I think it's the perfect time, Ethan." I cut him off, my tone icy. I nodded to Emma, who distributed envelopes to everyone. "What's this?" Rebecca demanded, her brow furrowed. "The truth," I replied simply. As they opened the envelopes, gasps and murmurs filled the room. Photos of Ethan and Samantha together, bank statements showing shared accounts, even a copy of a lease for an apartment they'd rented together. Rebecca's face turned crimson. "Ethan, what is the meaning of this?" Ethan stammered, looking desperately at Samantha, who had begun to cry silently. I stood, my hands flat on the table. "For months, my husband and my sister have been carrying on an affair behind my back. They've lied, cheated, and betrayed not just me, but all of us." The room erupted into chaos. Rebecca was shouting at Ethan, who was trying to explain himself over Samantha's sobs. Other family members were expressing their shock and disgust. Through it all, I remained standing, a strange calm washing over me. This was it, the moment of truth, the culmination of all the pain and anger I'd been holding in. Suddenly, Ethan lunged across the table, grabbing my arm. "Linda, please," he begged, his eyes wild. "We can work this out. Don't do this." I wrenched my arm away, my voice low and dangerous. "It's already done, Ethan. You made your choice. Now live with it." Rebecca stood abruptly, her face a mask of fury. "I raised you better than this, Ethan," she spat. "You're no son of mine." She turned to me, her expression softening slightly. "Linda, I'm so sorry." I had no idea. As Rebecca stormed out, followed by other family members, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. The truth was out, and there was no going back. Ethan and Samantha sat shell-shocked, their world crumbling around them. As I watched them, I realized this was just the beginning. The real challenge lay ahead, rebuilding my life from the ashes of their betrayal. The doorbell rang, shattering the peaceful morning Emma and I had been enjoying. We exchanged glances, both knowing who it must be. "I'll get it," Emma said, squeezing my hand before heading to the door. I heard Ethan's voice, pleading and desperate. "Please, I need to talk to Linda. Just 5 minutes." Emma's response was cold. "You've done enough damage, Dad." but I stood up. It's okay, Emma. Let him in. Ethan stumbled into the living room, a shadow of the man I'd been married to for decades. His eyes were bloodshot, his clothes rumpled. Linda, he croaked, I'm so sorry. I've lost everything. My mother won't speak to me. Our friends have turned their backs on us. Samantha, she left me. I felt a twinge of satisfaction, quickly replaced by disgust. At him, at the situation, at myself for feeling even a moment of pleasure at his pain. What do you want, Ethan? I asked, my voice steady. He fell to his knees, grabbing my hands. Please, take me back. I'll do anything. I was a fool, I see that now. We can start over, make things right. For a moment, I wavered. Decades of memories flashed through my mind. Our wedding day, the birth of Emma, countless shared moments of joy and sorrow. But then I remembered the betrayal, the lies, the pain he'd caused. I pulled my hands away. No, Ethan, we can't go back. But I love you, he sobbed. Love. Emma interjected, her voice sharp. You don't know the meaning of the word. You destroyed this family with your selfishness. Ethan turned to her, desperation in his eyes. Emma, please. Help me convince your mother. We can be a family again. I watched as Emma's face hardened. In that moment, I saw her strength, her loyalty, and I felt a surge of pride. We are a family, Emma said firmly. Mom and me. You're not part of it anymore. Ethan's face crumpled. He looked between us, realization dawning that he'd truly lost everything. As he stumbled to his feet and towards the door, I felt a chapter of my life closing. The pain was still there, but something else was growing stronger, hope for the future, a future I would build on my own terms. After Ethan left, Emma hugged me tightly. Are you okay, Mom? I nodded, surprised to find I meant it. I am. For the first time in a long time, I really am. As we stood there, I knew the hardest part was behind us. Whatever came next, we would face it together, stronger than ever. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee and warm pastries filled the air as I stood behind the counter of my new cafe, Second Chances. My heart swelled with pride as I looked around at the cozy space I'd created, a testament to my resilience and newfound independence. The bell above the door chimed, and Emma walked in hand with Jack. Their smiles were radiant, and I felt a surge of gratitude for their unwavering support throughout my journey. Mom, this place is amazing, Emma exclaimed, her eyes taking in every detail. Jack nodded in agreement. You've really outdone yourself, Linda. It's perfect.
As the cafe filled with friends, family, and curious locals, I found myself overwhelmed with emotion. Just months ago, I thought my life was over, shattered by betrayal. Now, here I was, embarking on a new adventure. Rebecca, Ethan's mother, approached me hesitantly. Linda, I want you to know how proud I am of you. You've shown incredible strength. I squeezed her hand, our shared pain creating an unexpected bond. Thank you, Rebecca. That means a lot. As I mingled with my guests, I caught sight of my reflection in the cafe window. The woman staring back at me was different from the one I'd been a year ago. Stronger, more confident, with a spark in her eyes that had long been missing. Emma clinked a spoon against her coffee mug, calling for attention. Everyone, I'd like to make a toast to my mom, the bravest woman I know. Mom, you've taught me that it's never too late for a fresh start. To new beginnings. The cafe erupted in cheers and applause. As I looked around at the smiling faces, I realized that this wasn't just a new chapter in my life. It was a whole new book. Later, as the last customer left and Emma and Jack helped me clean up, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The pain of Ethan and Samantha's betrayal was still there. A dull ache in my heart, but it no longer defined me. You okay, Mom? Emma asked, noticing my contemplative mood. I smiled, truly smiled, for what felt like the first time in ages. I'm more than okay, sweetheart. I'm free. As I locked up the cafe that night, I knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges and joys. But for the first time in a long time, I was excited to face them. This was my second life, and I was going to make the most of every moment.